Welcome back to Anchor of Hope. I'm super excited. This particular series is super, super relevant to me personally. And I know that it is for the rest of you guys who are joining us either today or joining us later on YouTube. But for those who are joining this series for the first time, we are going through a relationship series and just tackling all the different angles of relationships. And, you can take it any way you want, whether it's your relationship with your husband or wife, with your siblings, with your parents, with your friends, coworkers, whatever relationship, right? We live in a very relational world. So you can take it whichever way you want. But today's topic, I'm very, very excited because I feel like it's such a practical topic to be reviewing. And we're talking about conflict resolution today. So I want to welcome back Dr. Mijin Park and Dr. Roger Heuser. I hope I said your last name right. Two of my favorite people who are going to be taking us through the two different aspects of this topic, like we always do. Dr. Mijin Park is going to tackle it from the psychological aspect, and then Dr. Roger is going to handle it from the Christian spiritual aspect about conflict resolution. So welcome again to another great week of Anchor of Hope. I'm super excited. I hope you guys will walk away with at least one good takeaway and that you guys can use it or kind of own it and take it to heart to use it in your own personal lives. So before we get started, I wanted to open us up with a word of prayer. So if you can just join me as we lift this time up to God. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you so much. You are so good. You're so gracious and wise and patient and loving. And we're just so blessed to be called your children. Thank you for this Saturday morning, again, for Anchor of Hope. I know that all of us here are here because we have this hunger, this curiosity to learn about mental health, but not just mental health, but God, what you say about all of that. So God, I just pray that you be with us today. Would you just fill us all with your spirit to open up our ears, our minds, our hearts, our stubbornness, our old habits, whatever we might be coming into with this Anchor of Hope with. God, would your spirit just stir our hearts, help us to hear, help us to actively listen and believe and enjoy this truth together. I just pray that you be with Dr. Mijin and with Dr. Roger, that yes, they may come with expertise of their own, but Father, that truly their source would be from your grace and your truth that lives within them. So thank you again for this Saturday morning. We anticipate many, many good things today. And we just want to lift this time up to you. In your name we pray. Amen. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Dr. Mijin Park to share with us about conflict resolution.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So good to see you again. It's been a while, me speaking in this part. So hope that today you all can enjoy. We are in the middle of or going through the relationship series right now. So if you didn't listen to our previous, the three the topics in the relationship, please go and check our YouTube or our website to listen to it. The first one was self-awareness, right? It's a very, very important to understand ourselves, to understand and have a healthy relationship. Second one was expectations. We have to have realistic and right expectations in order for us to enjoy each other. And the last time, the third one was effective communication. Right. So today is a conflict resolution. The reason why I review of the three seminars today, because some of my talk will be related. When we are really thinking about the relationship topic, it is not just a linear, one thing will fix it at everything, right? So it's just we just have to learn and connected everything. So the building our skills in order for us to have healthy relationships. So let me share my screen with you. All right, conflict resolution. So let's just dive into it. And then I wanted it to have the next 10 minutes. You know, when we're thinking about the conflict resolution, there's so much to talk about because it's a day-to-day what we are experiencing, right? This conflict is inevitable in our lives. It's a part of our lives. So, but for today, for my portion, I wanted to talk about the one of the research is a very renowned research about the conflict resolution, especially in a relationship. So we can at least understand the sum of the parts in the research, and then maybe we can continue with the second part. Probably Dr. Roger will bring more in depth, and then in our discussions, probably we can talk about that a little bit more. All right, let's define and understand the meaning of the conflicts then. What is conflict? Conflict begins when two people want the same thing, or when people disagree about the same thing. So conflicts are part of our everyday life. Again, the conflict is inevitable, right? And also conflict exists when one person has a need of another, and that need is not being met. Dr. John Gottman's research proved that this is surprising and not surprising. 69% of problems in a relationship are unsolvable. Quite depressing, isn't it? Right? 69% of problems in a relationships are unsolvable. Also in his study, he was saying that one good predictions, right, for that this relationship can be healthier or their marriage can go last long is how they solve the problem. The common way, the Dr. John Gottman was mentioning in his research that it's not the appearance of a conflict, it is rather how it's managed that predicts the success or failure of a relationship. So then how can we manage, right? If this is the way to predict the success of our relationship, we wanted to know how to manage. He mentioned in his book, Seven Principles of Marriage Works, right? So in his book, he was mentioning that effectively managing conflict is to identify and counteract the four horsemen when they arrive in their conflict discussions. So then what are the four horsemen? So first one is a criticism. But criticism is a little bit different from the complaint. So complaint is more of a focusing on specific behaviors that what you see in your partner. But the criticism is literally is verbally attacking the person, the person's very character. So contempt is the second four horsemen. And contempt is very, very destructive and also is very defeating. It is this one, the contempt is the greatest predictor of a divorce. Another research actually shows that couples that are contemptuous of each other are more likely to suffer from infectious illness due to the weakened immune system. So contempt is a very, very dangerous thing, right? Again, the defensiveness is another one on the four horsemen. Defensiveness usually when we are defined as self-protection, right? So many people become defensive when they are being criticized. But problem is being defensive never helps to solve the problem. So defensiveness is really a way of blaming your partner. And indirectly, you're saying that, right? That you're saying it's all your problem. It's not me. Like what we talked about in the first relationship topic, self-awareness. Maybe it's not them. Maybe it's you, right? The stonewalling is another a part of the Four Horsemen. Stonewalling is when someone completely withdraw from a conflict discussions and no longer responds to their partner. When it happens, usually that when they are feeling flooded or overwhelmed, so that their reaction is to shut down and stop talking or disengaging. And they completely their distance and separation from even talking about this matter. So let's go through a little bit, because in his study, as a good news is that there's a way to effectively managing these issues, right? The criticism, antidotes of criticism is gentle startup. Again, criticism is to complain without blame by using a soft or a gentle startup. So Christy mentioned in her talk last time, effective communication, instead of starting you, start with the I statements, right? Because when you start with the you, then it already indicates is blaming them and then their problem. But when you are stating with I statements, you're actually addressing your needs. You're expressing your needs in a very positive way. So I just quoted, from the Gottman Institute and some examples here. That criticism often comes with, you always talk about yourself. Why are you always so selfish? Right? Is again attacking their personality or their character. But the antidote, and then the way you can start it up, your conversation, starting with the I statements. I am feeling left out of our talk tonight, and I needed to vent. Can we please talk about my day? So instead of you, we're starting with what do I feel and what do I need? Second one, contempt. Okay, what is the antidote for the contempt? The antidote to contempt is to build the culture of appreciation and respect in your relationship. There are many different ways of doing it, but they were saying that small things often. So express regularly about your appreciation and gratitudes and affection and respect for your partner. Again, I just quoted how to do that, right? And then I think that you can just quote that. The third one is, what is the antidote for the defensiveness? Again, right? It's blaming others, which means opposite way of it, taking responsibility. Take the responsibility, just accept your partner's perspectives. If there's anything that your partner is feeling it at the moment, just apologize for that feelings, what your partner is expressing it. So if we can't do the take it responsibility, sometimes we can meet in the middle way and compromise. Right? Maybe you cannot take it at all, but we can meet in the middle. So last one, what is antidotes for the stonewalling? This one is a very interesting, because during their research, the John Gottman, the reason why their research is so famous, because they actually created apartments and inviting the couples to live there and then do the research, right? It's a long period of time. So part of the research that they did is they allow them to just arguing about their conflicts about 15 minutes. And then purposely they stop them. Right? They purposely stop them and then tell them, oh, there's some technical issues. We want you guys to stop talking about your conflicts, but just looking at the magazine or reading a book, and we'll come back. And then after about a half time, and then they came back and then just talk about it again. But interesting things happen. That they are not escalated anymore, but they can talk about their conflicts. And then they're kind of thinking about it. What happened during that half an hour? And they realize that actually without even them knowing, their the physiological soothe themselves by reading and avoiding the discussions. So taking a break instead of continuing it, but allow your body to be soothed and calm, then it will be better. So the stonewalling, again, this is a very interesting, right? Physiological self-soothing will allow yourself to be calm and more logical in your brain and can talk about and solve the problem. And there is a two problem. One is solvable. Another one is a perpetual. What does that mean? Solvable problem or conflicts is more of day-to-day, is a situational, right? Is less intense. It can be easily solvable. Sometimes it cannot be easy, but still is solvable. For example, if your husband or your wife is not doing what you ask for them to do, then just softly start it again, like I statements, right? And then addressing it. Oh, honey, how come your trash can is not empty, right? So just focusing on that issues and that situational issues, and then using all those antidotes that what we're just talking about, and just compromise it, right? But if it is a perpetual things, is ongoing things, is a more of an internal conflicts, like a personal internal rather than is a situational or visible, then we kind of needed to accept and adopt that is a part of who they are. But that doesn't mean that who they are has to be remain. The accepted and adopted doesn't mean that you just have to live with it. But just accepting and adopting that your partner needs somebody to nurture them and allow them to actually grow and learn from that difficulties, right? Because we all need somebody to guide us and nurture us to grow. So if it is more of a perpetual things, when we accept and adopt, we will be able to be there and support them so that they can become who they are, rather than they remain as who they are. So we're helping one another to become who we can be. So what I tried to say here is, when we have a conflict in our life, it doesn't have to be somebody has to win or somebody has to cross that who is right and who is wrong. All conflicts, we can have a win-win situation. We both can win. So in order for me to summarize about today's talk, how to solve the conflicts so that we can have healthy relationship, and how can we have win-win relationship or win-win situation so that we can have healthy relationship and enjoy to one another. Because I want to summarize it with the two words, right? Is empathy and perspective. Probably we can talk more about it in our discussions. I believe that Dr. Raza will bring more how to all of us to have a win-win situation in our relationship so that we can enjoy about each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Meechin. Man, I was learning a lot. And I have to be honest, there's moments like the Four Horsemen that you were sharing. I was like, oh, I had to giggle when you got to the defensiveness one, because that is the story of my life. So thank you so much for taking us through that. I definitely feel like this topic maybe requires more than just one anchor of hope. I feel like you could have probably dove in to each horseman a little bit deeper, and we could have had like a series on just that. But thank you so much for sharing, Dr. Meechin.
Right. Greetings, everybody. It's really good to be with you. Let me begin with so many things will overlap with Dr. Meechin's presentation, but this is a kind of an operational model of conflict that I like to use. First of all, there are different types of conflict. Like there's an intra dimension of conflict where I might be conflictual over an issue with my wife, Gail, but she may not. It may be fine with her. So there's an intra dimension. There's an interpersonal dimension. And we've talked primarily about interpersonal conflict this morning, but there's also a intergroup. So you might have family conflict where some members have one side of the issue and a couple other members have another side of the issue. Now you have a kind of an intergroup or unit conflict. And then sometimes there's a whole organizational conflict. It has so many different roots and dimensions and issues in that. I think that conflict comes about with incompatible values, goals, methods that are expressed, shouldn't be perceived, but expressed in actions. Expressed in actions. So if you say, I'm really hungry, let's go out to dinner, and someone says, oh, wait, no, we've got a budget, we should probably make dinner. No, I want to go out. I got to get out. No, I want to have dinner at home. You have an incompatible goal or an incompatible method to reach a goal. So the value conflicts are the toughest to manage. And I would just like to say this. I think there's a difference between resolving our differences and managing our differences. I think Dr. Meakin mentioned that. I don't think we'll always resolve all of our differences. I think we have to manage them and live with the fact that we may disagree on certain things. But if one of us has been hurt, then we need to resolve the hurt. So the hardest conflict to reconcile would be values. So here's a secret. If you have incompatible methods, look for a common goal. And if you have incompatible goals, look for a common value. Something in conflict management, you want to look for something we can agree upon, because that then reinforces a healthy relationship to say, well, we can agree on this. So the actions of one party against the other produces this threat. And that's the difference in my mind between problem solving and conflict management, is when one party or more feels a threat. That threat then can be physical. Remember Elijah running away from Jezebel? He's running for his life. He thinks Jezebel's going to kill him. That's an Old Testament story. Psychological threats. Can you imagine what the Apostle Peter must have felt when Jesus said, "Get thee behind me, Satan"? What? What did he feel inside? Or positional threat, when the disciples are arguing where they would sit in the kingdom. And Jesus says to them, hey, it's not about power and privilege and position. In fact, it's about the one who serves. Can be financial threats, social identity threats. So the early church were primarily Jewish believers. And when those people, those Gentiles started coming in, there's a whole group of Jewish believers that felt threatened. Hey, this is not our faith anymore. You're letting those people in. And so we know there are many conflicts about what? Those us and them. Well, this threat produces reactions. And I love the way Dr. Meakin really framed this. I'm going to deal mostly with the defensive behaviors that would be this fight or flight syndrome. When we feel threatened, we're either going to fight, or we're going to flee or freeze, and we shut down. We just shut down. What Dr. Meakin said was stonewalling. So one would be, I'm going to strike back. The other one is to say, oh, you're right, I'll just give in. I'm going to be a peacemaker. Inside, you're struggling, you're angry, but you're just going to play the card of compliance. That's really protecting yourself, isn't it? Shutting down is a way to protect yourself. Now, it's been said, maybe we need 20 minutes or more to kind of set a boundary, to gather our senses so we can re-engage. And here are some self-giving behaviors that I've been thinking about for over the years. Have I listened well enough to state their position and story in a way that they would feel that I understood them. Good active listening. Have I stated their position, their feelings, their story in a way where they say, you know what, you got it right. That's what I'm feeling. That's my story in this conflict. Second, am I being honest and expressing my own views and feelings? And this I message is really a helpful way to do that, isn't it? Here's what I'm feeling. Here's my story. Can I own my part that knowingly or unknowingly contributed to the conflict? If I can't own my part, then there's not going to be a bridge, because they know when you have not owned your part, and you know when they've not owned their part. So levels of conflict. I'm not going to, actually, we're going to move on to this next one. So how do we, I think we have the capacity and invitation that conflict can actually contribute to our own spiritual growth and our own journey. Because conflict is throughout the scriptures, Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, all the way through Old Testament, New Testament, all of these. And so what are some ways? Here are some things I've thought about. I think the overarching concept is that we love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, mind, and strength, and we love our neighbor as ourselves. Both are intertwined. All of the commandments are summed up in these two commandments. How in the world you love someone as yourself when you're angry with them and what they've done to hurt you? Well, then that means that we go into another, we'll talk about that just a minute. I would read a verse from 1 Corinthians 13 every day. And I would consider memorizing these verses 4 through 7 and just memorizing them. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It doesn't insist on its own way or another, or does not keep a record of wrongs. Think of how many people a record of wrongs and then they explode. Now, if you had dealt with them near the time when it happened, it wouldn't be such a long list of wrongs that then explodes into this messy conversation and relationship. It's not irritable or resentful. It doesn't rejoice in wrongdoing. I have to tell you, sometimes I think the people I think are a little crazy, I don't like, it's like, oh, that happened to them? That might be good for them. No. I should not be rejoicing in wrongdoings, but rejoice in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Bearing one another simply means, this is also in Colossians, let others be who they are. Forgiving and forbearing. Paul says in Colossians, put on the mind of Christ. Clothe yourselves with Christ by what? Forgiving and forbearing. Forbearing is let other people be who they are. I like that picture. And so remember, Jesus asked, why do you see the speck in your neighbor's eye, but do not notice a log in your own eye? Or how can you say to your neighbor, oh, let me take the speck out of your eye while the log is in your own eye? Hey, dude, I think I got something in my eye. Oh, let me help you take it out. I guess I just got the right thing. Bam, I'll hit him over the head. Maybe the speck will come out when I hit him over the head with my plank. And then this one is speaking the truth in love. I'm going to follow up with this in just a minute. And finally, forgive those who trespass against us. I am not saying forgiveness is easy. I am not saying that forgiveness is one moment. It sometimes is a journey. It may take hours. It may take days. It may take weeks. Because when people hurt us real bad, it's easy to move into anger. Anger can be as self-protection, but if it's not addressed, anger can turn into malice and become our own worst enemy. That's why forgiveness is not just for their benefit, but for ours, to release us from the malice that we may have in our hearts toward others. So speak the truth in love. I think that means being assertive, but being also empathic. And I would just say, expressing yourself. Here's what I'm. And Dr. Meejan went through some of this, so I'm not going to go through all of this, but there it is. I think I'm going to stop there for now, and we can talk about whatever you wish.